Welcome to the podcast. I'm Alyssa.
I'm Brielle.
And I'm Ande.
And welcome to The Dialogue, a chatty writing podcast that feels like hanging out with your friends.
Surprise, everyone, and welcome to a podcast that Alyssa Brielle and I recently decided to start, somewhat spontaneously, somewhat planned out, but the three of us are close friends who enjoy writing together. We often have found that having our daily chats about writing and writing together in community has just helped us so much in our writing processes, how we feel about our craft, and helped us improve in it. And so we thought a fun way to extend that invitation to others and maybe do the same service for you would be to start a podcast and be able to extend you into this little circle that we've started. So welcome to The Dialogue. We are so excited to get started and go over all the things that are writing related and talk a little bit about craft and creativity and everything in between.
We're going to start with monthly uploads and we'll see how it goes from there.
We have also created a YouTube channel for the podcast specifically. So if you're watching on YouTube and you want to subscribe to that channel, that would be awesome.
I am also going to do some investigative journalism to see how we can get this on Spotify and other platforms. So if you listen that way, we'll link that down below if you prefer another platform.
Yeah.
Slay.
Should we jump in? Let's jump in.
Let's jump in. Okay, so I think we're going to start off. Our first segment of these podcasts is going to be just kind of checking in, seeing what's going on, seeing what the writing is up. So what we're all up to writing wise. Anybody want to start us off?
I suppose I can take a
Yes.
stab at it. Okay, well, I've been pretty much MIA on YouTube aside from one recent video, so I feel like I have a lot to tell the people about in terms of writing updates, which is fun. I am officially in draft 4 now of a book that I'm writing called House of Aphtose. It's a fantasy duology, so I finished draft 3 sometime early fall, got my book to beta readers. That was my first beta reading experience. What a trip, what a fun time. And then started draft 4 a couple months ago, or maybe like 6 weeks ago. I don't really even know when the week was. I'm not even going to try to pinpoint it because I don't want to analyze how long I've been working on this new draft and the pace I've been going at. So we're just going to say not that long ago I started this draft. But I made it through Act 1. This is the first time I've done a draft of this book where certain chapters actually don't need torn apart and overhauled and rewritten. And that's really strange because reading through something and having one chapter that takes you a week to re-edit and then one that you literally knock out in 2 hours. I feel like the mental game of that is throwing me off a little bit. I'm finding myself actually feeling insecure about the chapters that I'm not heavy-handed in. That's been strange. It's been a mental trip, but at the same time, I'm really happy to be at a point where it's not, taxing every single page of the book. So that's me.
How much of these edits so far would you say, Ande, is you directly addressing beta reader notes versus things that you're noticing yourself going through this draft again?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like so part of the process of what I did when I was kind of deciding what beta reader feedback I was going to implement and what beta reader feedback I wasn't going to implement was made a condensed document that was all of the feedback I got from betas put together. And then I kind of sorted through what aligns from these, I did 3. So what aligns from these 3 beta readers, what is something only one person said, and then worked through what's my impression or my feeling on those edits in terms of my vision for the project and whatever. And that was kind of how I got a streamlined bullet pointed version of here's the implementation we're going to go ahead with. And then from there, I, recreated kind of a redone outline of the book based off of what the feedback being in the novel would look like. I think that outline has really helped me chapter for chapter know, this chapter didn't happen to have there's no beta reader feedback I got that's going to affect this chapter. And then those chapters, though, the ones that aren't getting some type of note that came from a beta reader, I still feel like I'm seeing edits in them. A lot of them are more so me trying to be nitpicky in terms of line level and just overall character tone and things like that, just making sure consistency is there, especially with these other chapters that are getting overhauled. I want the stuff that's existing and remaining the same in the manuscript to still feel coherent with the stuff that's getting changed. So I think those are kind of two areas I've been trying to pay attention to. And then I also want, you know, when I run through this again before I'm kind of ready to take it to the next phase, I want the line level to be as clean as I possibly can leave it off. I don't want to feel you know, taxed all over again going through the manuscript because I didn't pay attention to line levels and now I have to like elevate all the writing in that sense. So yeah, I think it depends on the chapter. There's some where like most of it is just beta reader feedback or writing in a whole new scene or something. And the ones that aren't are more so me just trying to pay attention and see what areas of improvement I can still see.
I mean, I feel like it's so funny because, I mean, we talk about this all the time of different people approaching like revisions in different ways in terms of like line level specifically, because I used to very much be like, I would not think about line level when implementing beta reader stuff, and like I would go through and do all of the beta reader edits, like I like the content that would need to change, like I would put the dialogue or the change in without really thinking about the flow, and then I would like maybe like once I finished act 1 I would go through for flow. And I don't know, I feel like I keep going back and forth of whether I like to do it that way or not, because I think thinking about line level as you're doing it does help it feel like, okay, yes, I can move on from this section because I feel like this section is good, but also it's kind of a double-edged sword because it can feel like, oh, I need to get this right before I can move on to anything else. So sometimes, I mean, like, I feel like I've done it both ways and I'm fine with doing it however feels the easiest. This round specifically, I mean, I'll get into mine in a couple of minutes here, but like, I feel like just getting the change to be there and then moving on and then going through a couple of chapters at a time and separating it that way. But I know you guys are very like, you want to have all the line level. You want it to like actually feel like a finished chapter before you move on.
I feel like for me, that's not so much of a conscious choice. I wish I had that ability to hyperfocus. Like I can't really just look at one concentrated area of edits. I mean, I can, because it's not like I'm taking line levels all the way to like, this is perfect and so well cleaned up that I'm ready to like give it to any random reader or something. But the concept of having it read like a chapter, I don't know how to turn that switch off. And that might just be like a maturity and writing thing. I don't know if that's because of the way my brain is wired or just because I don't have enough practice to ignore other elements yet. So I don't know. Yeah. Brielle, what do you think?
No, I kind of agree. I'm like, I feel like maybe with time I'll develop this trust in like, oh, I can see this messy version of it and know what it will become, so I'm fine leaving it and whatever. But I feel like at this point I'm like, I don't have those reps to have seen the way that can work. So to me, it is unsettling to leave it because I'm like, so I'm just trusting that this is going to be good in the future. Like, I don't love doing that. And also, I have a bit of a weird belief in the sense that I feel like line level and developmental are so intertwined. And we've talked about this. But, like, my philosophy is, what is the book if not the words on the page, if not the sentences on the page? So, like, you know, to me, it's like...
Couldn't be me.
They're so intertwined. Like, the way that I crack the developmental is through the line and vice versa. But then again... When I say line, I'm not talking about like grammar. I'm talking about like, how are we achieving things? How are things being said? You know, like
I resonate with that so hardcore. Yeah,
I actually could not disagree more. But I know that this is a difference that we have as writers. Like you and I, like I just know this from our friendship. It's like the words to me are like, I know this sounds insane. I just feel like the thing I'm always the worst at, I'm like, I'm not actually good at writing sentences. I think that's actually something I have developed. It's funny that you said that, like, you feel like it's something you'll grow into, because I actually feel like as I've developed more as a writer, I actually care more about the line level as I'm doing the edits. Like, I used to be so much like, I would just like put brackets in for revision and then like go in and like, I would take it so incrementally, because actually writing sentences that make sense and are coherent and like grammatically correct. In past books, I would just like write whatever, knowing it was like not the best, but I was like, well, I did the edit, and like line editing to me was such a separate stage. Because I also think I started writing seriously in kind of a different era of AuthorTube and the way that people talked online about writing, because there used to be such a huge focus on like the stages of writing a book. We talk about this now too, of like, first you write the first draft and then you edit it and then, but like it used to be so like the shit draft, like it has to be so crappy at the beginning and then you refine it a little bit more. And then like line editing to me was this totally separate thing. Yeah. And that was more so what the conversation was at that time. Like there was not a lot of people who talked about like line editing during developmental stages, but now I've started doing that more too, depending on the stage. I don't know, it's just interesting.
Yeah, to me it feels like figuring out what works best for you in terms of division of labor, because you're either front loading work or back loading it, and what falls best for you mentally in what phase of the process, Also, it kind of depends on your personality in writing. Like I have known this about myself forever, like since I first started enjoying writing, but I can be very flowery and descriptive and really hang in like the imagery is what matters to me, or like that was the first thing that like made me fall in love with writing, was writing pretty sentences that feel descriptive and like you're evoking an image. And so I think therefore I had never been attracted to the idea of just conceptually telling a story and building out what are the elements of a story that make it effective. So like when you mentioned you could just put brackets in and then okay, like really that problem is solved now. I just have to then go in and like write the sentences that like show the solving. Because that was not the initial part of writing that made me feel like I am writing, if that makes sense. Like I always was writing the flowery sentences and not doing any of the background structure. And that's the part I've learned and has been like a skill I've developed. And so I think, now that I'm 2 years into working on this project and really putting time and effort into honing the craft of writing and learning about it, I've learned to be less flowery and less descriptive and more focused on like what are actual story elements and plot structure and things that like how do you create the functionality of a story beyond just the line level prettiness. And I think it just depends on where your starting block is, because people tend to either feel attracted to story structure from the start, or you might be attracted to the prettiness and like the final image. And when you try to start with the final image, you then have to go build this infrastructure for the image to flourish on.
Yes, and this is why I always take writing advice with such a grain of salt, because everybody comes into writing naturally good at something else. Like some people really shine at character, some people really shine at story structure, some people really shine at like the writing of actual sentences. And advice that's like, you need to focus on this area first and this area second. It's like, well, you don't know, like everybody's coming from a different level, like baseline of knowledge. So really it's about taking in all of the information and sorting through and seeing like, what do I actually see as a weakness or a strength? And like, how can I develop my process to like work in tune with that,
Totally.
I think also like what helps you immerse is a factor, because like I feel like if you are someone who holds a lot of it in your head and is really good at like knowing the characters, knowing the story in your head, you might not need the page to reflect that vision exactly right away. Versus if you're someone who relies on what you can look at on the page to pull you back into the story or to show you where you're going, then you might care a little bit more about like trying to hit it right the first time, You strike me, Alyssa, as someone who does hold a lot of it in your head. Like the story in your brain, and you're like dreamy in that way.
She's just so dreamy.
She's dreamy. She's just a dreamy girl,
No, that's so true, because sometimes I read a chapter. This comes back to haunt me in revision so much, because I read a chapter and I'm like, no, that's not. What do you mean? Or someone will make a comment and I'm like, no, that's not how the story is. Like they must have read it wrong. And then I read the chapter and I'm like, wait a minute. This is actually the crux of all of my problems, I'm realizing at this moment. Which is really
having
great.
realizations.
Alyssa, I fear you saying that's the crux of all your problems is the perfect transition into you giving your update, so I feel like you should go next.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out how to give an update. I would say I am limping across the finish line of draft 11 of All's Fair in Love and Robbery, which is my action rom-com. It's probably the first time you're hearing me refer to it as that, but that is the genre. Is it a real genre? We'll find out. Time will tell. I am working on, I would say, late stage edits at this point. I got back feedback from a variety of sources. So like beta readers and then also my mentor. I'm in a writing mentorship right now. And I've been working on it. It's a lot of line level. It's a lot of copy level. And then, I don't know, at this point, I was making a smoothie this morning. This relates. Imagine you made a smoothie. You thought to yourself, I'm going to make a strawberry banana kale smoothie because that's what I think the people want to eat. This is what I want to make. This is what I want to eat. It has all the nutrients that I want. Slay. So I make a strawberry banana kale smoothie and I drink it and I'm like, and you're working on getting the flavors right. You're adding a little bit of yogurt. You're adding in a bit of water. That's like draft 3 or 4. And you're like, this is a really great kale banana smoothie. Slay. I'm going to query this smoothie out into the market. This is a book, okay? I'm going to start selling this smoothie. Then you realize, wait a minute, me as a person, I actually think I like a little bit more blueberry in the smoothie. So I'm actually going to take it off at the market and I'm going to add in a blueberry. So I'm going to remix the smoothie with the blueberry added into it. So now it's kind of a new thing and that's exciting. But you still have, but you're working with all of the same original fruit that you originally put into the smoothie. So when you add it in, like some of this fruit is like getting kind of moldy and stale and like you're mixing it all together, right? You two nodding along as if I'm not just spiraling into an abyss is everything.
I am tracking. I am following every part. Go ahead.
You do that and you're like, okay, now I feel like this is a really great like different like tropical fruit smoothie that I think is going to go to a new market and I think it's strong and I think it still sort of resembles the older book, like it's still made of the same material but it's just like a little bit different, right? And then you get feedback that's like the texture is just a little bit off on the smoothie and you need a little bit more blueberry and a little bit less kale and a little bit more but again, you're working with the same original smoothie. So it's like you're trying to mix it and at a certain point, the smoothie just becomes brown because you've added too many things and trying to take things out of the smoothie. That's how I feel right now. About this book is that I can't even taste any of the original flavors. Like right now, this smoothie is like, it's just like, it tastes like fruit. And sometimes if I look at certain sections of it, I can see the individual kale and smooth that out a little bit. But like, it feels like I can't even really see it at all. But I think it's tasting good. I think it's overall the smoothie that I would like to present to the market. But I, as the smoothie developer, can no longer taste the smoothie. And then also, when you present the smoothies out to the customers, they're on like this is going to go so crazy and insane. You're not actually ready for the direction I'm about to go. They're on like a conveyor belt that's like kind of shaky, right? And so people can grab them if they want them, but also randomly the conveyor belt will shoot a smoothie off, so it doesn't even matter. Like randomly, the smoothie will fall off of the conveyor belt and splatter to the ground. Like it doesn't, and even if that smoothie was good.
Wait, so who's the conveyor belt?
Yeah,
what is the conveyor belt?
You lost me in the metaphor there.
This metaphor. The conveyor belt is like the odds of, so like people taking the, like people, like the agents are the customers, right? They're taking the smoothie like, oh, I kind of like this, kind of don't, but also the conveyor belt can just like not even show the smoothie to the right people. Or maybe they drink it and they were just not in the mood for that smoothie. Or the smoothie just fell off the conveyor belt and nobody even saw it in the first place because nobody could see what it even was before it clattered to the ground. That is how I feel about traditional publishing right there.
I think
let's unpack that.
That metaphor actually was really well constructed. Like, as you kept going and the image got more complex and deeper, I understood the elements at play. And I think it's a pretty good comparison, honestly. Yeah.
And the most like actual part of this metaphor that I think is the most important is like right now in my edits, I feel like I can't distinguish. I can't even like.
You're taste blind. Yeah.
I'm taste blind and the smoothie like I can't even see the original flavor of it. But I think it's good. Like I think objectively looking at the smoothie, looking at everything that's in it, looking at how on its consistency and all of the pieces, like I think it's good. But then it's like if I get a piece of feedback that's like, oh, you should change the strawberry flavor a little bit. I can't even see that there's a strawberry in there. I can't even tell. I couldn't distinguish the fruit to you. Like I have no more, like I can't see it.
You're ready for a new smoothie, I think.
I'm ready to make a new smoothie. And I was ready, and I had thought that the smoothie was done. But then I decided that I was going to do I was going to develop a new recipe for the smoothie, and I knew that. And so I knew going into this book, to bring it back to actual literal terms, I knew going into this edit that like I'm choosing to take this finished book that I had queried that was done, and I'm choosing to like open it up to new feedback and to look at it in a new way and to make it more of a romance than it is a thriller. If you've never watched my content before, you must be literally so confused. But I wrote a book. I queried it as a thriller. I realized it was actually a rom-com, rewrote it as a rom-com sort of. And then I'm in a mentorship for romance. So I'm getting feedback on it being a romance and just did this big edit. And now I'm on like the last, hopefully, edit of it. I think up until this point, I was really able to see and like not let the fatigue of working on like literally draft 11 of this book get to me. But now I'm at the final last things, and it feels like I'm losing my sense of like certainty about am I going too far? Or am I editing something that shouldn't be edited? Like, I feel like I've heard this advice about editing before, that like the minute that you start to not know if you're making it better or worse, you're just making it different is when you need to be done. And I felt like that for a long time, but I also do still want to like really honor and take in all of the feedback that I am getting to make sure I am addressing it. And also I am a part of a mentorship program. And so like I do need to take all of these edits. I don't have to like implement all of them, but I have to like really think about and make a decision about all of these edits. Yeah. It's not like it's just like a beta reader where I could just like, I'm just not going to take any of that, you know? So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm literally going to finish it probably tomorrow. So I'm like very almost done. Yeah. But
it definitely seems like it's in a spot now where like where you're at emotionally and just stamina wise with the project. If this mentorship could have magically fallen in draft 6 or 5 or something, then like I think the edits would have felt easier to kind of comprehend and like really have a grasp on the way they're changing the manuscript and the, like you said, the distinction between just an improvement versus just making a difference, because those are not always synonymous. So yeah, I think, you know, kudos to you for taking on the chance to do this with this project after you'd already kind of closed the book on it, or closed the cover to talk in writing terms. But anyway,
I already drank the smoothie.
You already drank the smoothie. Yeah, no, actually, let's not go down that.
Let's not complicate that metaphor anymore.
We're done with the smoothie, I fear.
We're done with the smoothie metaphor.
Yeah.
I should grab my smoothie. Because I did make one this morning, and it did fall to the ground. That's where this metaphor came from.
I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about the conveyor belt and your current feelings on TradPub.
All right, just so quick for anyone who, like, if we're new to people here, Brielle and I are both planning to self-publish our current projects, and Alyssa is seeking traditional publishing. So we've got both bases covered here in this little audience.
Yes. When I said that, I didn't necessarily mean like the whole traditional publishing industry in general, but more so like where I'm at in it, because a lot of people, it does not take 3 books and 3 years querying and all of this like a lot of, like, some people it does, and it's not really the industry's fault, because really you're just playing a lottery, you know, like that's really what you're doing with traditional publishing. And so like I can't fault traditional publishing for being what it is. Like, it is just like a really, really competitive industry, and I feel like sometimes we get blind to that because there are so many people in AuthorTube who have like found success in traditional publishing. So it kind of creates this false perception that there's like that the odds are actually easier than it actually is to get into traditional publishing and to get a book deal and to get all this stuff. So when I'm in it, specifically, like I've been in it for so long, and then I've seen like tangible improvements. Like you can see my requests get higher. You can see like getting into these mentorships and getting in these opportunities. Like I know objectively that I am getting closer, but it also just feels like I'm doing so much work. Like I feel like this is like draining me past the point that I would work on a book if I was just doing it for fun, or doing it to a point where it was just about me feeling satisfied. Like right now it feels like I'm doing edits that I would not do if I was just like writing this for fun, or even writing it to be complete on my own. I think I literally just said that same thing twice, but that's how I feel. Is like
if you were going the self-publication route and it was about you feeling proud of the work, it would be done.
It would have been done months ago. Yeah.
I do want to push back on what you said of like it doesn't take most people 3 years, 3 books. I disagree. I feel like you're like you mentioned, because we see a lot of like on social media in general, of course what we're seeing is the quicker success stories, but like there's so many people that it takes years and years and years and years. Like that's a lot of the stories that I hear from people who have been in the game longer, or like, yeah, just like less online people. So
there's so much nuance into like what genre you're trying to get trad pub in, and I think you are in a spot where, like, I mean, the book that you're working on right now feels like it would be absolutely an easy commercial sell. Like it's something I could see a lot of people picking up, versus if you're in this, you know, one super niche spot where agents are only looking for books that fit these three categories, which I think that's where like the strength came of you embracing the fact that you had written a romantic comedy thriller, because it is more nuanced and niche than what you originally had of it just being a thriller. So I think like that shift wasn't even a year ago, you know, like this is true. That was more recent than not. So I think you are beating down the right doors to get to that spot where an agent's like, wow, I only have this specific taste and this book met it. I think the broader the taste, the harder and the longer it is. And you learned a lot about yourself as a writer in the last year of like, what is your unique flavor that you're bringing to the table and that makes you stand out in a query pool. So anyway.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, because I'm also really putting the cart before the horse here, because I'm saying all this under the assumption that like all of this work that I'm doing is for nothing, which I don't know. I have not started querying this new version with this new genre. Like I have no idea how the market is going to respond to that. But because like I've now queried 3 books and they've all just died on in the trenches, and so it just feels like that's the natural progression. Like if that's what happens again, then I'm feeling this way, and so I'm kind of projecting. I'm like feeling that before I need to feel it, just as sort of like a self protection mechanism of like, well, I don't want to, because I really do feel like this book is so much better, and I feel like this strategy of query of like writing in this genre, like this is actually the genre that it is. So I really do feel like the odds are better, but it also doesn't matter. Like you can be doing literally everything right and have written the perfect book in the perfect genre, and it can still, like, your odds are still crazy low to get an agent, you know?
That's where the lottery piece really is true, is that like you can do all the things right that you can control, but there is an element of this that's just not in your control and really never will be, and that, you know, is the grueling part of it, I think. So
yes,
I do think though, like the growth that you've seen between each of these books, like I feel like you're still very much in a phase of your writing and like author journey where you're growing leaps and bounds between each project, and probably eventually those steps will get smaller once you start to really like be like, oh, this is like not my final form, but you know what I mean? The fact that you're still making those big leaps means your chances are getting substantially better with each time. So I think you should take some like encouragement in that. But I also get like, it's kind of like how our brains work. If like you've seen things go a certain way each time, you start to expect that, and you kind of just have to like force yourself into optimism about it.
Right, because it's like I have never had like, in my mind, full requests always come back as no's, because that's the only thing that's ever happened. But like that's not like when I watch people's vlogs of them getting agents and then the response to a submission is a yes, it feels like so crazy, because that's just never like the result. And so like I have a pavlovian response to my, like I see the headline submission reply from, and I'm already reacting as though it's a no because of how many of them there have been, you know? I don't mean to be like, oh, pity me, like so hard, blah, I deserve everything in the world, because like this is just what this industry is. If you go into querying and traditional publishing, like you have to be aware that this is like, you can't be blind to that. Like that's what you're walking into, is you're walking into it being like the answer is going to be no most of the time. And so obviously it is demoralizing, but also it can't, I really struggle because I don't want to have the attitude of like, why am I not getting picked up? I'm the best writer, and like blah, like I don't deserve anything. Like nobody deserves or earns or like has entitlement to an agent. That's just like not how this industry works, you know?
We're just
You're
over here
crazy.
like,
You're
you got
crazy."
this.
Yeah, I mean, the blind optimism that I can so easily have for you because I'm not doing what you're doing, I am aware of that and I do acknowledge it. Because I hear you talk and I'm like, but it's gonna happen. It's going to happen.
I
to
believe
you.
that too. Like I'm filming this long vlog that I've been filming for like 3 years now that I will post when I get an agent. And I'm like, in that video, like filming that video, I feel like is a test, or not a test, but like a testament to that blind optimism that I have too, of like, it is not an if question in my head. It is a when question.
Right.
I try to talk about it as though it's an if because I am aware of the reality, and I don't want it to come across that like I think I deserve one right now, today, this second. But it's less of a when in terms of like when they finally see how great I am, but more so of a like when it's the right time, when I've gotten to the right place, and when it's the right
I was gonna
fit.
say, I think the
You know?
more books you write, the more books you query, the longer you improve yourself as a writer, the better the lottery odds get, because
For sure.
so I think that makes it very appropriate to approach that as a when and not an if, is because there are tangible things that you can do to get as close as possible. Well, lovely Brielle, that leaves you. Give us a little update. Give us a rundown. What's going on in the world of unraveling?
Mine will probably be briefer because I don't feel like I have anything crazy to update on. But I'm in draft 4 now. I'm working on what I would consider late stage developmental revision. I'm implementing beta reader feedback on my dystopian fantasy project, if you don't know me, which is titled Unraveling. And yeah, I'm in like late act 1, and a lot of what I've been working on recently is just refinding rhythm in my writing process, and also like rebuilding confidence, I would say, because I feel like every time I go into a new draft, every time I get a round of feedback, it's a matter of like being able to acknowledge like areas that I need to grow in, and then going through those growing pains of like having to face things that I don't know how to fix immediately, or things that I'm like, this is going to require 5 days of thinking about one chapter, you know? But that's what leads to the big strides. So I'm trying to embrace that. But yeah, it's been a lot of growing pains. It's been a lot of like pushing myself to get better in various ways. Something that I've been thinking about that I would love for us to unpack a little is this concept of writing more fearlessly, because I feel like sometimes I get into this place with writing where I'm writing from a very fearful place of like worrying about like how a reader would perceive certain things, being scared to go for it and like just experiment, because I feel like a lot of the best creatives are experimenters and people who are willing to try things and like push themselves. So yeah, that's something that I'm trying to work on instilling in myself. I feel like it's probably a writing insecurity thing where I just feel nervous to give it everything and to go for it, I guess, with my full chest.
I feel like I struggle with this the most after getting feedback. I mean, I think we all have had experience getting feedback where it's really hard because you start to equate like this feedback to my writing ability, and you start to make it mean all these things that it doesn't mean. To quote the lovely Shaylin Wrights, revision is not a punishment for getting it wrong, but it often feels like it is, because you'll get feedback that's like, the interiority here in this one scene doesn't make sense. And then it's like, it becomes like, am I bad at writing interiority? Can I actually execute anything on the page? Like, and so then the next time you go into writing, it's like, okay, how do I make sure that this interiority really matches up perfectly with what blah, blah, you know? And that is not, like, to your point, like that is very fearful writing of like, I need to write this scene in the way that gets it right, which is not, that's what revision is for. And I was really seeing this a couple weeks ago. I had just gotten feedback back on the book, and I was taking a week before I was going to implement it, and I was writing my fantasy novel, but I could hear all of the edits from a draft 11 while I was going into this first draft writing, where I was like, okay, I really need to think about this and this and this and these things that are consistently weaknesses for me. And then it was so hard for me to get anything like soulful on the page. Like I felt like everything I wrote was like, didn't have any of the je ne sais quoi, didn't have any Alyssa and the books in it, you know? And then I had to remind myself, I do it in 2 passes. Like this is what I found to work for me, where I just have to get it, like, not think about the words, not think about anything, write very fearlessly first, and then I go through, and then I can adjust interiority here and there because there's something soulful to work with, you know?
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's a great way to put it, because I think the just throw up on the page, like, mindset to me means more so like write with the soul, like write without the fear, instead of like, oh, just make it as messy as possible for the hell of it. That's like not the goal, right? Just like allow that first iteration to be so driven by like heart and soul and feeling and like immersion, and then the logistical stuff you can always clean up later, but you can't like fabricate that like heartful part of it if you're coming at it from a purely analytical eye. At least that's how I feel.
I think that for me, with this being the first project I've ever really committed to seeing through, there wasn't a lot of fear to have looming when I started, because I didn't even know what committing to following through on a project was going to look like. And so when I sat down and started House of Aptos, it was just like, I have this vision in my head and I've decided I want to write a book. I don't want to just write scenes in a Google Doc sometimes when I'm inspired and then leave them there to die. I want to write a book. So it was like, you know, I have all these ideas. I'm excited. The vision is there. So just sit down and let it, write with your chest. Like, it was just this very soulful, emotional vision for what I wanted the end product to feel like. And I think the part that has so far invoked the most fear for me was sitting with beta reader feedback, and kind of now that I've, I asked for beta reader feedback 1.5 years into this project. And so at that point, it's more than just the soulful expression of the emotions you're picturing for the story. It's actual work you've put in, it's actual revision. You've, learned about story structure, and you're trying to implement these craft level things. And I think that for me is more so what I was afraid of hearing feedback on, because I know I don't have 10 years of experience in doing craft level writing. I think that is the part I'm always trying to grow in. I know I'm still pretty much a novice in that area, and I'm growing and getting better. And so, when you talk about writing without fear, you first have to identify what is the fear. And I think the fear for me is that I don't know enough about this craft to execute this goal that I have in mind yet. Like, do I need to put in 4 books that never see the light of day before I am capable of writing one that is worthy of, being put out there? And so that's a different fear for everyone. Like, what is the voice that you are listening to in your head? And I think a really valuable tool for me has been like, when I have these fearful statements about my craft or about myself, or I'm starting to internalize feedback that's about the work, about as me as the writer instead of about the work, is to write down those statements and then literally be like, okay, brain, is this a true or false statement? Like, is this because of a way that you're perceiving yourself, or is this because of an actual factual thing that needs to improve, and it's not personal, it's just about the craft? And so something that really helped me when I went in to have conversations about beta reader feedback and then make a plan for implementation and not feel overwhelmed or scared, or like someone was saying my project was crap or whatever, was almost to like, I don't know if this is good advice or bad, so take it as you will, but almost like disassociate from the project. I feel like I really had to look at it as like, my goal is for this project to fit this mission. I have a theme that I think is important for people to hear about, and I have characters that I think can have a personal story that tells that theme to the reader. And so if my goal is, if my value is really in, I want to communicate this underlying truth to the reader through these people, then the story is just the tool, And so I think having that mindset really helped me, because instead of viewing beta reader feedback as an attack on the theme, which is really what I'm passionate about, the beta reader feedback was just extra tools in my toolbox to help the story work and function the way that I'm not quite equipped enough to make it run and do yet. So like, I don't know, if we're going to do smoothie metaphors, we could do like a car metaphor here. Like, I'm not a certified mechanic yet, but I have a vision for this beautiful, beautiful vehicle that will get someone from A to B. And I really want to see that person arrive at B. I really want to pick the reader up at A, and I want this vehicle to be a motive that helps them get to B. And I'm not equipped yet to make that car get them there by myself. And that's where having people come in and take a look and go, oh, well, you need oil, you need, more gas, you need the engine to run in this way. That for me helped remove the fear of hearing feedback, and then be able to look at, okay, if we were to just reimagine, it's always act 2. If we were to reimagine act 2, what are the things that we could implement here to improve and make this vehicle run better that I feel excited about? And having that kind of dissociation really ended up getting me to a spot where once I started draft 4, I was really excited about the image and the vision that I had kind of casted in my head and in my outline for draft 4, instead of being afraid or like, do I have the stamina to do another big draft? Because draft 2 was an overhaul, draft 3 was an overhaul. Like, I just come through 2 big overhauls of literally ripping things to shreds. And so, there's the fear of like, do I have what it takes to rip this to shreds again? And, I think instead of feeling like I'm tearing it down and taking it backwards, building something that feels exciting, and like I'm even more excited about the vision we just created for this than I was about the old version of it, has helped me sideline that fear and write with my chest in this draft.
Yes, I love that. I feel like a lot of fear comes from, like you kind of mentioned, like the belief of like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this, or like kind of like preemptively making a decision about your own ability, or like, oh, the project's not going to be able to go up this extra level. I don't know if I can take it there. Yeah. And so I think not stopping yourself before you start, like don't make a decision when you're sitting with feedback about whether or not it's possible to implement, like let yourself show yourself that you can do it, because we've all experienced being able to do revisions that maybe in the past we wouldn't have even foreseen ourselves as capable of. Yeah. But we've seen that evidence that we actually can do things that felt impossible at an earlier stage. So yeah, I think that's like a good thing to keep in mind as well, is just like a lot of fear is you deciding things about your own ability that you have no business deciding. Like I look back on December when I was like sitting with the beta feedback, and I like for some reason came to the conclusion of, I don't know if I want to publish. And like looking back on that now, it's like so sad to me, because I feel like I was so tempted to like decide that I couldn't fix it so quickly. And it's like, try, like see if you can. Don't make some decision about your own ability or the limitations of the project before you've even seen if that's true. Like that's how you never let yourself get to the finish line,
100%, Brielle. And I think like that ties so well to what I was saying about, if you could write down the statement, if you could vocalize the fear on a piece of paper and then ask yourself, is that true or false? If the fear is tied to ability, it's always going to be false, because ability isn't stagnant. It's changing all the time. As long as you don't quit, then the statement's false, because you can get there and you can do it and you can become capable. So I think that is just like, that should be a salve to anybody who's wondering if they're capable of writing a story or starting this process or finishing it, or maybe you're stuck in the middle. Like as long as you keep going, then your ability is going to equip and it's going to get better. And eventually you're going to be able to execute what felt impossible when you started.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes. Yeah. I feel like one of the key differences between our paths, in that Alyssa's doing trad and we're doing self, is like, and it's like there's pros and cons to either side, is that Ande and I are like our own gatekeeper. Like we're the thing standing in our own way and or giving ourselves permission. We are the person that needs to be like, yeah, this is good enough. Go ahead, which is hard and freeing at the same time. Every once in a while I have to like remember that and be like, oh wait, I can actually make decisions. That's cool. But then like, I'm curious, Alyssa, on the opposite side of that, like how does that affect your relationship with this concept of the book being good enough, or your ability?
I think it's a similar feeling when you start querying, because when you're querying, you're saying like, I believe that this is good enough to get an agent, and it's good enough to surpass all of these odds. But I think there is a little bit less like you don't have to press that final publish button. And so I do think that is like a different vibe. Usually when I query, I am done with that book. I am not looking at that book again. In my mind, it is like as far as it's going until I get an agent, right? It felt very final to me. Like it felt more final of like, I am pressing essentially publish on this book for my own ability, like what I can do with it. And so to do that and then to take the book out of the querying trenches and to get feedback, it was the hardest feedback I've ever got in that first round, even though I knew it. Like I was giving it to someone saying, give me feedback on this. And then they did. And I was like, this thing that I thought was done and good was not. And it wasn't even that it wasn't fine as it was just like, in order to be this different thing, it needed to be different. So I think it just gets kind of more complicated, because I could have pressed publish on that version that I started querying with, with professional copy edits and such. But because I didn't, like, there still is that like now I feel like I have more of insecurity around that. When I will finish it and query it, it's like, this still doesn't feel like it's really done. And so I think I would have a harder time, because I do plan to self-publish at some point. Like I would like to be a hybrid author in that way. And I think it will be hard for me to press publish, because I have this experience now of like, well, this thing I thought was as done as published, basically. And then there were all of these things that I didn't see. But that's like going to be every book ever. Like any published book, you could go and you could make a revision plan for. Like any book is going to have that. And so I just feel like, self or trad, it's going to be kind of come down to that same crux of like, you're never going to have the best possible version ever that has no edits, that you could that you would look back on in 5 years and have no edits on. Like that's not going to happen in self-publishing or trad publishing.
I think that is just eternally true for writing, period, because it's an artistic expression. Like no matter how hard you lean into the writing or the art side of it versus like this is a skill you can learn and execute side of it, it's still, you could write a book that one person rates 5 stars and it's their favorite book in the world, and another person DNF'd because they just couldn't stand it. And the impression of, the person who DNF'd it, they're going to have a lot of notes and improvements of things they think you could change. And then the person who said it was 5 stars, they loved it, whatever. So there's just, that's always going to exist no matter what form of publication you go for. It's just never going to be in a spot where everyone loves it. It's perfect. It's well written. There's no notes. She ate and left no crumbs. Like there's always going to be something
there's always
for someone. And I remember, Brielle, you making a YouTube video not, too long ago that was talking about writing for yourself, and how you said that very thing, that there's never going to be a book that you're capable of writing that appeases everybody. There's always going to be someone who would rather read something else, and that's okay, because you need to love the book as the author of it, and that's the main thing that matters.
And I think that is one of those differences between trad and self right there, is that it's not just that I have to love it, is that it also kind of has to meet certain expectations of genres. Because there are edits that I'm making right now where it's like, if I was self-publishing this, I probably wouldn't make this. But just because I know that there are certain things that agents are looking for. And so you just have to think about that a little more. But I hesitate to even say that, because then people get kind of up in arms of you should be able to write whatever you want and it should be able to be good. And it's I don't think it's making it not my book or not my voice or not, it's just you can't die on every single hill. And some hills are there for a reason, because you're choosing to go into working with an agent who's going to pitch it to an editor, who's going to pitch it to their boss. There are just more things to take into account.
Yeah, you need this whole team of people to feel like it's done, or you're it's not just an individual's okay, I'm happy to greenlight this. It's the team's.
Are we ready to move on to our next segment?
Let's.
I think so.
1 hour in. 1 hour
I'm so excited.
Okay, this one's going to be really kind of a speed round before we get into our final little thing. Well, bigger. I don't know. I would like to hear what everyone's favorite meal was that they made this week. I want to get some inspo for some meals. I can go first since I kind of sprung this on you with no warning. I could talk about the smoothie again, but I fear we've heard too much about smoothie.
Also, was she your favorite? Was she your favorite, or was she the worst one?
No. Well, she was kind of the worst. But but very good for my body. LOL. It's fine. I would say I've been making these little, like, it's more of like an hors d'oeuvre, I would say, where it's like a hash brown patty, and then you put cottage cheese on top, and then you put smoked salmon on top. And it's like really high in protein, and it's like that. Those hash browns are like a really good carb too. She said health. She said bodybuilder. If you're looking to get that protein up, it also makes me feel like I'm eating at like a fancy restaurant that they would bring out tiny portions of. I've been making that for like a month and a half now, so I hope I don't ever get sick of it, but I fear the day is coming where I'm going to get sick of it. So that is my meal of the week.
That sounds good. My meal of the week is one that I have not made before, but I've made it twice this week because we liked it so much. If anyone is, a fan of Aldi, shout out Aldi. We shop there every week, and they have great potato gnocchi that's pretty, good ingredients and all that jazz. So I picked up some of that randomly because I thought, I don't know, I'll just make gnocchi. I never make gnocchi. And then I realized when I got home and was making dinner one night, I forgot to get the sauce. So then I thought, what's something I could do with this other than, I don't have sauce.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'll saute some mushrooms and some onions, and I'll add a little heavy cream to that, and then I'll pan fry the gnocchi after it's been cooked. So I did that. Boiled the gnocchi, and I did the saute in the onion with the garlic and the mushrooms and and then added in the gnocchi, gave it a little pan fry in the cast iron skillet, added a little heavy cream, not enough to make it like saucy, but it just gave it a little coating, a little something, a little je ne sais quoi. And then I just cooked up some chicken breast and added that in there too, so there's some protein. And that whole meal from top to bottom took 30 minutes, like from starting to eating. And so we had it again last night.
I have something less magnificent than that because, as you may or may not know, I do none of the cooking in my household because Jeff loves cooking and willingly took on the task of doing all the cooking. But the one thing that I do often like put together for myself is like my little salad with veggie burgers on top situation. And I've been topping it with pickled onions and hard-boiled egg. And it's really good. So that's the only thing I've been assembling.
I was going to say, what about the berry matcha? I feel like the berry matcha was the highlight.
Is that a meal?
But I didn't make that.
Also, is that a meal,
I was
Alyssa?
just thinking something you ate.
Oh. Well, if it's something I ate, then yes. The beverages I tried this week, the Starbucks berry matcha are up there. And I did also have sushi one day this week, which was really good.
Ooh,
I miss sushi so much.
Yeah.
Can you not have sushi?
You are not supposed to eat sushi when you're pregnant because of high mercury
of the fish?
levels. Yeah, because raw fish has higher mercury levels, which is apparently not good. So
I've never had sushi in my life.
I would say that checks out for some reason. I don't know why that feels like on brand, but that feels like it.
Yeah. I'm not very adventurous.
We could get it while you're visiting me if you're feeling adventurous.
I mean, I would love to feel adventurous.
I would recommend starting with a spicy Cali roll. I think that is
I don't like spice.
It's not really actually spicy. I mean, you could just start with a Cali
pretty
roll.
Alyssa's pretty sensitive
Then
to
just
spice. We went to Taco Bell and she was talking about how the crunch wrap was spice. I was like, girl.
I am.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Then I'm going to change.
Minnesotan gird heart.
I'm going to change my recommendation. Start with just a California roll that has no spice, or a Philadelphia. I think those are two of the most mild, mellow, easy to get on board with sushi rolls.
I think I've always just assumed that sushi is spicy for some reason. I don't know where that came from.
Much of it is not.
So I will branch out. Alyssa tries sushi next episode of the dialogue.
Better be in a vlog.
Catch it in our vlog. Yeah, catch it in our vlog.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Slay. All right. Well, I do have one more segment. So I am a fan of all of these podcasts that like they read Reddit stories and talk about them. It is my guilty pleasure. Specifically, Smosh reads Reddit stories. I'm sure that people know. I'm not the first person to tell you about that. But I have taken the liberty of looking for some like writing, I would say adjacent, am I the a-hole, am I the asshole kind of stories. Not all of them are as writing related as others. I think some of them will have like a lot to say about like craft and like thought. And some of them are just like, what, why, who, what, where, when, and why is going on, you know? And so Andy and Brielle have not read these. I think we maybe have time for one today. Maybe we'll, you know, because they're kind of long, actually. I think we're going to start with, am I the a-hole for writing a novel even though my uncle already wrote one?
Okay.
So
Elaborate.
here's the story. I, 27 female, have written a book. I've been working on it since I was 18 in my spare time. While it was only something I wrote in the background, I'm proud of what I've done. A few of my friends have known about my secret book for years, and I kept telling them I'd let them read it when I finished. I never actually thought I'd finish the book. Now my uncle has also written a few books, none of them highly successful. He wrote one novel about the Civil War that got mixed reviews and a few historical short stories that did slightly better. All of them were self-published, and he did sell a few hundred copies, which is kind of a slight for the uncle. Anyway, my friends read the book and said that I should think about seeing if someone will publish it. I haven't made any clear decisions on that, but somehow it got around to my parents that I've written a book. My parents had mixed reactions to the news. There had been a lot of jealousy between my uncle's family and our family. His family struggled a lot because of the problems between him and his wife, while I have a relatively safe and structured family setting. They have always hated us because my parents apparently had more opportunities for success. My parents feel that if I pursue trying to publish my book, it will make one more thing between give my uncle's family one more reason to hate us. My dad is angry because we've had conversations in the past about writing books. He had always wanted to write a book, but knew that if he did, it would damage his relationship with his brother. Now he's worried that my uncle will hear that I've already written a book and it will cause family drama. I feel I am the a-hole because I knew that writing a book might upset my uncle. On the other hand, because it was a coping mechanism for stressors in my life and not an attempt to outdo my uncle, it makes me feel like I wasn't in the wrong. I definitely think I would be the a-hole if I tried to get it published.
No.
But I'd like to know what everyone thinks. Am I the a-hole for writing a book even though my uncle already wrote one?
Girl, did your uncle patent writing a book?
No!
Like, is it his? He owns it? I don't think so. I don't think so.
You
What the
can't
heck?
base your life decisions on how it's going to emotionally affect
Your
someone
uncle.
else.
What else? That's so crazy. As people who write books too, it's like writing a book is such like a long, personal, individual process.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to say like, because I write a book, nobody else in my entire life can be interested in writing.
If there was a like real specificness to this where like she tried to write the same story that he did or like something real right there in line with it, I could see where you're worried about them being like, oh my gosh, that's kind of my niche thing. Hello? But writing in general, not related. That is a whole different experience. It's like just because you work at a bank, I'm not allowed to work at a bank because you own working at a bank. You know what I mean? Not how that works. Not how that works.
Yeah, that is super sus to me. And also, you guys aren't, like, it sounds like this poster said that they were going to look into publishers, so it's not even like they're going the same route. Like, your uncle decided to self-publish his stories, or going traditional. Like, there's no overlap. And I think it says more about the uncle's own issues and insecurities that you're worried that he would take this in a negative light. Like, that's on him. Yeah. He needs to maybe work on his confidence in his writing or publishing journey.
I fear your uncle needs to be a man and support his niece and really choose positivity and encouragement and love.
And I'm also side-eyeing the parents because what do you mean they were angry that you decided you wanted to write a book instead of being like, wow, like in this age of social media where nobody wants to like do anything with an attention span, our daughter has written a book. No, just like, well, that might cause drama for me.
For real. Like, what an accomplishment and a feat for your child to come and, like, imagine telling your parents you did this huge, awesome thing that took a lot of mental stamina and them saying, we have mixed reviews on that.
No.
And it's also one of those weird things because I feel like a lot of professions, there's like kind of an expectation that you do the same career as other people in your family of like, oh, we're all lawyers. You should be a lawyer.
True.
We're all doctors. You should be a doctor. But I feel like when it comes to writing, it gets weird. Like if people find out like like art in general. I feel like this happens where it's like, oh, well, my aunt is this famous writer. I probably shouldn't like people. I don't want people to think I'm just like mooching off of this person's success, like even the other way. Or I feel like writing specifically gets really competitive. Like if you had 2 lawyers in the family, there might be a little bit of competition of like who is the better lawyer, but
or
it
they might
be
just
like
make a joint firm.
Attack. Exactly, they work together. But I feel like if there's 2 writers who are in a like family dynamic, there's like this inherent like, well, who's doing better, who's published, who's doing that.
It's like, reminding me of that movie, Brielle. What's that movie you had me watch when I visited?
Oh, Stuck in Love, right?
Yes,
with the family of writers.
Yeah.
Have you seen this movie,
like
Alyssa?
that.
No.
No.
Oh, we're watching it when you come.
Every writer needs to watch that movie. It's so good.
Yes.
And
so
also
good.
will rip your little heart right out. So
I love my heart to be ripped out.
we love.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. I
a good
think,
cry.
Alyssa.
Yeah.
I think the reason why this competitiveness exists, like you said, Alyssa, in writing and art, is still this perception of scarcity of opportunity, and like it all ties back to like the starving artist thing. This idea that like only the very top percent, and so therefore people have to deck it out, and it's frustrating because like we've acknowledged in this podcast already some of the realities of, for example, traditional publishing, etc.
Yeah.
But like indie exists to help democratize that process a little bit, and like obviously not to say it's easy to succeed at indie publishing, but it's certainly not that everyone's in competition. Like you can't view it that way. And there's so many readers too, like so many people looking to discover books, and so many writers who are selling amazingly in indie. So it's like I'm side-eyeing this uncle for thinking that you would be a threat.
I'm side-eyeing this uncle. Yeah. And I also do think even in trad, like it's not like you're competing directly with the other people in the querying trenches. Like, because agents will take on multiple clients. Yeah. It's really about like, are you fulfilling certain like what that agent is wanting? So it's very rarely that you're like directly competing unless you had literally the same exact premise and characters, which would be crazy, you know?
Yeah. She is not the a-hole.
She is not the a-hole. It makes me sad where she's like, I know I would be the a-hole if I publish. I'm like, no girl, publish.
Yeah, it seemed like from the tone of her little post that she's really internalized. Instead of being like, you guys are crazy, it seems like she's kind of thinking that they're right, which makes me sad.
She really needs to find some AuthorTube community because we would set her straight.
She needs to get on to
her
YouTube.
Straight.
Come on over to YouTube, OP. If you're seeing this, comment down below.
Come on over.
Next podcast guest.
Yeah.
Original poster for those of you non-Redditers. That's what they call the poster. Yeah. So I've got many more of these to come.
I'm excited for the future. That was so fun.
It's so fun to look at those. Some of them are psycho crazy insane. So I hope you're excited about that.
That one was pretty crazy.
That was
that one also was up there.
That was a good kickoff. I love it. I think that's such a fun segment.
Yes. And so to cap us off, I would like everyone to share a win of the week, whether it be writing or non-writing related.
I think my win of the week is going to be going to therapy. Yes. Going back for my second session, setting up a weekly schedule, and taking a little bit better care of myself. So
yes,
yay, Brielle. That's so good. I think my win of the week would be feeling just balanced this week. I spent a good amount of time writing. I made some progress in the manuscript, but I also spent a lot of time knitting this week, which is a winter hobby I always enjoy. And I've been knitting a lot of baby things, which is just fun and comforting and cozy. So I did that. And I also was able to go on a couple walks this week, which have been, I'm trying to stay. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm currently 32 weeks pregnant. So I'm in the thick of the third trimester. So anyway, trying to stay active. And I did 2 long walks this week. So I feel like, yay, me. So I felt like my week was well balanced. I felt like I got to plug in multiple areas.
I feel actually very similarly, not to steal your one of the week, Andy, but I feel like I slip into this mindset sometimes of like, I'm like a writer, like I'm writing all the time, and like all that I do is write, and I like sort of hermitize myself. But I felt like this week I had a lot of like video work to do, and but I still felt like I made significant progress in the book. So I think the win is like not having to spend every spare second writing and still felt like I made progress. And also I am so close to being done. So like that is a win, but it does not feel like a win until I actually do it, you know?
Yeah. Those are all, guys, those are great wins. I'm proud of all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at us looking after our lives outside of writing and work.
Thought. Yeah, well, I think that brings us to the end of our first episode. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Make sure you subscribe to all 3 of our channels. They'll be linked down below, as will the Reddit story if you want to see the comments on that Reddit post, see what other people had to say. If you find a Reddit story where you're like, the girls got to listen to this one, feel free to send it. I don't know how you're going to send it, but find a way. Maybe on Instagram, maybe an email, a comment.
Are we also open to like writing hot takes if anyone wants to submit they want us to review their direct comment? And
yes, if you have a story like that, send us a message.
Send us your crazy
even if it's not that
stories.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, make your own little Reddit post in our DMs. I would love
that would be so fun.
It can be writing related or writing adjacent, you know? Like hit us with something fun.
Awesome. Well, don't forget to like this video, rate us wherever you're listening to your podcast, and we'll see you when we see you.